wish to bring the profile of Yusuf Azizullah. I believe he's joining us live from Washington, D.C. I will be also getting the confirmation. Yusuf is a CEO and founder of GBAC, which is a Global Board Advisors Corporation and Boardroom Education.com, an influential corporate governance advisory firm. His expertise includes digitization, transition, and cyber governance, international financial strategies, creating business models, utilizing artificial intelligence, and disruptive technology. His YouTube channel brings boardroom insights from leading international brands. Yusuf has served as consulting partner at Tata Consulting Services in the Silicon Valley practice, ranked among the world's most innovative companies. He provided cloud transition, cybersecurity solutions, and IT transformation, program management, and advisory and assurance services. He served as head of IT, audit, and SOX compliance officer for AstraZeneca. Oh, AstraZeneca. If that name sounds good. No, with immune division. His career includes IT governance, risk and compliance, GRC, manager of Deloitte. He is the chairman of the board for 2 fintech awarded nonprofit organizations with global footprints: the One Less Foundation, TOLF, and Building Community Bridges, that is BCB. His thought leadership has featured on CNBC's Box, the World Economic Forum, and Institutes of Directors across 4 continents. Yusuf is a U.S. National Association of Corporate Directors Board Leadership. Okay. Directors Leadership Credentials Governance Fellow. His qualifications include executive education from Harvard Business School for audit committees, an MBA management, and an MSc Management Information Systems, BSc in finance. Yusuf teaches adjunct executive education MBA courses at Germany Mannheim Business School, a joint program with Sino-German Mannheim Tongji Executive MBA. In addition, Yusuf's portfolio and acknowledgements include top 10 CEO Sustainability Challenges, CEO ESG Innovation in 18 months, 2021, author of Microsoft Emerging Technology Holoportation and Rise in Virtual Boardroom Meetings. Holoportation is how you will get to the next board meeting 2016, publisher World Economic Forum. Author of 4 major challenges facing boardrooms in 2016, the publisher was World Economic Forum. Indeed, Yusuf is one excellent personality, and indeed with lots of wealth and knowledge to speak to us. But I have been greatly advised on something here, and this is what I'll put across to you as we head into the first session. I'm informed that I need to bring before you the paper chair, and then the paper chair will pick up the rest of that. So it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Suvik Banerjee. I hope I have pronounced it well. Banerjee, the MD Continental Drink Kenya, and I am sure he has a wealth of knowledge and experience to speak to us as we head into this session. So just to give you a quick information about our paper chair. Trying to locate that one even as we head into that paper. I remind you again later today that we have prepared an excellent session for you, as we will be having some small team building together. And indeed, I look forward to seeing you all in the evening, even as we prepare ourselves. It is my honor, my pleasure and privilege to welcome Banerjee. I hope he's going to give his remarks as he welcomes the speakers for the session. Karibu sana. Let's put him Okay, let's give him a round of applause as we welcome him. Karibu sana. And I hope you will give us the correct pronunciation of that wonderful name, Karibu sana.
Good morning, Naivasha. Good morning. And Bona MC, thank you very much. You made my workload lighter by already introducing Dr. Yusuf Azizullah. But a few words about where Continental Re comes from. We today are the largest private sector reinsurance company in Africa. We have a 37-year-old history, and our Nairobi office was set up in 2008. Actually, we set up a representative office, and in 2013, we turned into a full-fledged subsidiary of Continental Reinsurance, headquartered in Lagos. And since then, we have, with the support of all of you, enjoyed tremendous success. I joined Continental Re 5 years ago. That time, we were having a premium income of about 2 billion shillings. Last year, we closed at 6 billion shillings. And if you look at IRA statistics, we are also the most profitable reinsurer. Why I'm saying this is because we are able to give you the benefit of how we reached there. And that is most important. It's not the fact that I or the company is making profit. It is what we are doing with the profits. And Dr. Kajwan, I would also like to respond to your request and say that Continental Re also is the sponsor of the Pan-African Journalism Awards to enhance insurance knowledge in the continent. And this year, in addition to the official languages of English and French, we also introduced Arabic to cover more of the continent. And they have elicited massive response. And in fact, during the AIO, we actually celebrated some of the leaders in thought processes across the continent. Now, okay, before, I think I got ahead of myself because Dr. Kajwan sort of brought me into that life. But officially, can I step back one step and start off as I should have started by acknowledging the director of IIK, Mrs. Agnes Macharia, of course, Mr. Jenga. Thank you very much for being here, and of course, Dr. Kajwan. And it's wonderful to see such bright faces in Naivasha. And I know that a lot of you have traveled today from Nairobi to be here with us. But you need to acknowledge the gentleman who you see on the screen here, Dr. Yusuf. It's now about 3 a.m. in Washington where he is, and he looks fresh as a daisy. Yusuf, good to see you, and welcome to this presentation. Now, we are going to discuss on the effects of geopolitical change and climate changes on the financial sector. Now, why is this so important? Just the other day we were talking of a global village where the world is becoming smaller, everybody is coming together, and sitting at one place, I'm able to interact with somebody across the continents. But today, suddenly the world has become a bit strained. The conflicts in Eastern Europe have shown us that countries want to become polarized rather than being closer together. And that is a challenge that we are facing. In addition, climate change is upon us, and regardless of what the former president of the United States would have us believe, climate change is a reality and we have to live with it. In fact, at Continental Re, we do a lot of work on agriculture, and my agri specialist tells me that the farmers are saying that the climate that used to prevail 10 years ago has come back. So it's nothing like you are following a trend. So global warming has created a situation where you cannot predict what's coming up tomorrow. So how are we going to live up to this change? How are we going to take up this challenge? These are issues which we have to grapple with every day, and I'm thankful to IIK that they thought it fit that this should be the first trend-setting paper for this conference. I've been associated with IIK for a long time, Dr. Kadwang. I have had the pleasure of attending some of their seminars in the previous years when everything used to be at Safari Park Hotel. It was very nice. We took the decision of helping or sponsoring this conference, and certainly we would be looking to more opportunities for doing so, because for continental reach, the spread of knowledge is most important. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to be here. But without any further ado, let me hand over the floor to Dr. Yusuf Azizullah, who will speak about geopolitical changes and climate changes from a global perspective, so that we are all aware of how it's happening across the world. And thereafter, I will bring in our second speaker, Leslie. Yeah, a lot of you would be knowing Leslie. He has been with Kenya and Africa for a long time now. In spite of his very youthful looks, he has a wealth of experience. And he will be our second speaker today, and he will focus more on Africa. But Dr. Yusuf, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Jambo, everybody. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Everybody can see the screen.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Can you hear
I hear you, Dr. Yusuf.
Okay. Jambo, everybody. Hello. If you hear me, wave your hand. Hello. I don't know if I'm being heard by the public. Okay, good. Thank you
We
very
can't hear you, Yusuf.
Oh, can't?
Just a second.
Okay. No worries.
Can you try?
Hello.
Can you say something?
I'm saying something. Can you hear me now?
We can't hear you yet.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you now. Great.
You can hear me now? Great.
Yes, thank you.
Jambo, everybody. Hello. How's everybody doing? Good, good. Thank you. I know it's very early for me, but welcome. And thank you, everybody, for the nice introduction. I want to first thank the Institute for inviting me, colleagues, sir, madam, gentlemen, attendees, welcome. As a keynote speaker, I have responsibility to share with you some of the lessons that will help you in life, in your day-to-day job. And I've tried to make this presentation in a couple of sections. First, I have a question for you. How many people report into the boardroom here? Okay. How many people are curious about the boardroom? Wonder, if you're young in your career, I will tell you secrets. How many people like secrets here? If you like secrets, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I like to have this presentation about secrets, and I will share with you about several secrets in the boardroom discussions that are happening with environmental, social, and governance. My agenda for the today is in 3 parts. One, I will talk about the ugly pill. The first part is the ugly medicine. You know, when you were young, your mom would give you some medicine that you never liked, but you swallowed it because it was good for you. So I will talk about our economy, some of the challenges our industry is facing. Then I will talk about the new president, where I see and I'm hearing he's taking the direction towards. Then I will talk about some of the best practices, what are happening with insurance underwriters, large scale global companies, what they're doing, and what lessons can we derive from them in our day-to-day jobs. So without further ado, the first thing is the economic disruptions. COVID has still not gone away. And that has put our growth for the continent and our houses at a very high premium. Unfortunately, this affects our underwriting premiums. The household income has gone down because your gas pump is now costing you more for driving. And unfortunately, food prices have gone up. But what does that mean for us as insurance industry? Well, one thing is that the purchasing power, income, disposable income that these people have has already gone down. And a lot of people have defaulted on their premium payments. A lot of businesses have defaulted on their business premium payments. And we as underwriters have to lapse those policies. How many people are seeing those defaults in your own companies? All right. This is the ugly pill. Let's move ahead a little bit. Africa still has challenges. Kenya, insurance underwriters have challenges. One of the big challenges is, unfortunately, people don't understand what insurance does. We are in the business of risk management. Making sure people have better lives is what insurance gives you. Better lives, but unfortunately, I talk about here Nigeria, one of the large populations on the planet. Less than 1% people have insurance policies. And this is concerning because businesses need the policies. Now, one thing that is being observed across that is very interesting are new startups, new insurance digital companies, not just only in Nigeria or in Africa, but across the planet in insurance industries. They are digital, they're nimble, and they make fast delivery in making sure they receive payments from customers. They make sure for customers to sign up easily. Many examples of this exist across the planet. In the UK, Life and Journal, which is a FTSE 100 company, one of the largest insurance companies in UK, they have a very easy platform for you to sign up and make it very easy for customers to sign up. A point to be taken. Your digital can help you advance. That's the lesson I want you to take from here. We have to acknowledge our challenges. Here's where I see the geopolitics change. The new president has met our president, American president, several times since taking office in the last month. I see definitely a change in direction in Nairobi from China to USA, shifting. As an American, I'm really happy because I want to do more business with Kenya. I want Kenya to be a powerful. Our ambassador who's here on the picture, Meg Freeman, she was a tech giant CEO of Hewlett Packard and a Republican former presidential candidate. When President Biden assigned her, President Biden, this is an interesting fact, he said and the most important country for America is Kenya in Africa. And I want Meg, you to lead us as our ambassador. This is a very interesting point because he put a tech-savvy CEO as our ambassador. She is on the Forbes billionaire list. She's worth 3.1 billion. But just to let you know how tech is important and digital is important and how Kenya is important for us strategically. Google, that we love, every person loves Google, has a office, a data center now recently opened in the last couple of months in Kenya. Nowhere in Africa have they opened a data center before Nairobi. So it shows how important digital and tech is becoming in Kenya, something to take a point from, and a shift in policy from Chinese to the US side. Now, this is the fun part of ESG, environmental, social, and governance. The boardrooms that I see, let me take a sip of water. One of the conversations I had with a CEO of a global 100 company, he said to me, you know, Yusuf, ESG is important. I know it's important, but now my institutional investors, my shareholders are pressuring me. They asked me, I had 2 meetings with them, and in both meetings, they asked, what's your ESG strategy? And I didn't have an answer for them. This is a personal story. And from that time, the CEO decided to pay a focus and attention on ESG. You know, I want to focus you a couple of things on this slide. The things I have seen in my boardrooms that I have discussions in, most of the global companies have gone in the route, and Google being the prime example, have gone on the left side here. If you look at carbon credits, carbon credits are basically, in a nutshell, being sold in lots of stock exchanges. Just recently, in the last 1 week, London Stock Exchange came up with a listing reason for companies that are going to be performing some kind of carbon credit to make it easy for them to come public. Thailand, Japan, UK, and I see an exchange coming up soon, probably in Africa, who's going to also bring carbon credits in the game in Africa. It's basically kind of an IOU. One company doesn't use how much carbon they can emit in 1 year, but the other side, companies are using carbon too much. They get to sell or buy carbon credits from other companies. So that's been the game, how to get to net zero. Net zero being how I can cut my emissions to zero. Now, if you don't do carbon credits, your other choice is renewables, solar, alternative forms of hydrogen, whatever energy you use. This is what's being noted. But however, a lot of companies, more than 1,000 plus companies, have started claiming that they are going to be 100% carbon free 2030, 2050. And they're lying pretty much in simple words. And the regulator who was before me, and I loved his presentation, they have started paying attention. They have started giving fines. It's called greenwashing. You basically claim too much that we are going to be carbon neutral, but nothing substantive, something action oriented. No steps have been taken to make really tangible assets. As an industry, also insurance, I will show you in the couple of next slides. But people, it's an evolving early infancy state that people are talking about. Well, if you're not going on the carbon credit or alternative side, what is your option? Realistically, you're only left with innovation, and underwriting is an enterprise-wide across the company innovation. And that's going to be digital transformation using artificial intelligence. I talk about that in my course. I do a lot of coaching, training, and discussions with boardrooms and C-suite people on what are your alternatives. I've been very blessed to, over the years, work at boards of Apple, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan. I will show you some of my clients that I've worked with in the last slide, but at the moment, let's continue this discussion. So where do we go from here is the first question in my mind. Well, let's talk about what's happening in our own industry in insurance. In Kenya also, this side of the game has come, and globally, the merger and then acquisition. The large players are looking at small players. Small players are trying to survive due to COVID by combining with other smaller players, you know. Now, small players does not mean they're innovative. Small players just mean they're smaller in size. Now, something that's a new trend I want to talk about is dynamic materiality. When you buy one company, something happening in Europe a lot is at the time of the merger or acquisition, if you don't disclose to each other that you have some kind of ESG risk, ESG factor that's going to be on your balance sheet or off your balance sheet, because ESG factors are off the balance sheet. Later on, anytime, 5 years, 10 years, you name it, we find out you lied to us, we can come back and sue you. A. B, renegotiate the contract, pay you less. And that's a new trend that litigation lawyers love. Now, other side of the thing, big noted, and I will show you in the next couple of slides, our big players are forming their own frameworks. There's lots of frameworks in ESG, more than 32 frameworks globally, and it drives a person like crazy. You sit down and have a sip of something to sit down and just sit down. But as a CFO, as a chief financial officer, or in somebody who's in charge of controls or reporting, you are lost. What do I report on? And boardrooms are now taking multiple frameworks just to baseline themselves. Anyway, underwriters are creating their own criteria for underwriting, and they are also taking, after that, creating their own sustainable portfolios. I'll give you an example soon. Anyway, the fun point here is in UK, just recently, Marsh, which itself is a large insurer, said they did a survey of 30 largest insurance carriers in UK. And all of them confirmed that ESG factors are going to be a huge thing, if not becoming the de facto standard very soon. When I say de facto standard, I mean that it's part of your underwriting process. You must be thinking, okay, what do I do now? Here's an example of AIG. Anybody from AIG there? AIG Africa? No one? All right. If you see them later in the day, ask them. So I'll make it simple for you. You know, one of the most empowering thing in life is to say no to somebody. When my business grew as a board advisor, board director, I was in boardrooms that I didn't think I could get into, Coca-Cola. And later in life, now, thank God, through referrals and sales, we all love referrals. I got referrals, and you could say no to somebody. Hey, I don't want to work with you. AIG is doing their underwriting in that sense. They're going to be stop issuing policies to any customer and not do business with them or not underwrite them if they have 30% of their portfolio based on coal or any other substantive carbon emitting substance. This is what we're talking about. Of course, another company that's committed to 2050, they'll be completely zero neutral. Let's get to 2050. We're sitting in 2022. But this is one approach. You can say no to somebody. Here's Zurich, another mega global company. Again, taking their own framework. And what are they doing? Now they're in 210 countries. So they have across different continents, different strategy, but basic principle is the same. training your employees, your underwriters, your risk managers on ESG factors. Now, I will show you ESG framework in a couple of slides in MISCI. There are multiple frameworks, as I said, 32 plus, and we're creating our own frameworks. We're not less on frameworks. We're less on approach that's going to be tangible matrix. And I'll come to that in a minute. ESG research analysis in your investment decision processing. Now integrating it into your portfolios, and after that, you have a responsibility if you want to underwrite them, risk evaluate your customers, risk evaluate your own portfolios. Now, as a public company, it's a common standard now. And as Kenyans, we should be proud. I'll share you a Wall Street secret. Which company do you think from Kenya, anybody, do you think is the most invested by Wall Street in Kenya? It's Safaricom, M-Pesa. And M-Pesa has been giving sustainability reports for more than almost 10 years, almost 9 years. They've been publishing sustainability reports. Our friends, not Zurich, but our friends at AIG just published last year. I wanted to tell you. So they're, as such a big company in 70 countries, they just published their sustainability report a year ago. And Safaricom has been publishing for about 9 years. So they have a leg advantage with stakeholders, with shareholders, institutional investors, customers, and other regulators. And it gives you an image, and you are definitely above the maturity line. All right, sorry, let me go this way. Apology. All right, here's Zurich putting it in their underwriting process. I have heard discussions. I have seen and advised people that business models that are accounting ESG in their underwriting process, like Zurich is, in their whole business model, is the key to success. When I say key to success, I mean 3 parts. 1, in your own portfolio, the risk will go down because you'll be writing better policies. When you have better underwriting policies, the revenue, the premiums will be much more better because you'll actually capture the revenue. Now, in an inflation environment, you want money coming in as much as cash is king within that environment. So whatever we can do to improve our premiums and underwriting, it will be hit the bottom line. Now, here's a materiality assessment. The whole process starts in the ESG journey, starts with the materiality assessment. You discuss it with your stakeholders. You do it on a frequent basis based on the industry. I talk about it in my course. And I advise this. And if you see, one of the top things is cyber threats, and digital transformation. They've realized it. Remember, when I talk to boardrooms, I see companies are no longer in just an insurance company. I spoke to a board chair and a C-suite. The guy said, I'm not an insurance company. I'm a tech company who writes insurance. And it hit me, and I liked it. I said, that's nice. I'm a tech company who underwrites insurance, because they are so digital. And with COVID, every company going remote, just fast-speeded digital transformation. That's the key. Moving ahead, let's see where the planet is and where the industry is, and what I advise my friends listening to me in Kenya and Africa. This is
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, good. I can roll it up in 2 minutes. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it. This is the industry with UN. They don't have any metric right now that's substantial or calculated for emissions calculation. Scope 3, without going into much detail, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. There's no official criteria. So this is an evolving space. I advise my friends listening to me to get involved with them, attend their meetings. You know, one thing on the boardroom is if you don't have a seat at the table, your agenda never gets done. As a minority, I am in boardrooms that I didn't think. And if I don't have a seat there, my agenda is not there. Anyway, here's Miski's format. I'm not going in detail. The point from this slide is if you want to start your materiality assessment, you need to get data from people that are calculating your data. These are people that give you, sell you, advise you, and work with you in getting you, rating you, and giving you ESG data. That's the point from here. What else? Here's some options that I want to talk about. One thing is actually here, something is ransomware. Kenya is being hit, one of the top countries in Africa in this Ukraine-Russian war. That's one of the top 5 countries that's targeted for ransomware, for cyber attacks. If you're a board chairman in Kenya and a CEO, and you're concerned about cloud strategy, Kenyan Data Act, keeping your customers' data private, and how much attacks you're getting, and politically Kenya's growing economy in Africa, and there's somebody, you're on somebody's target list. That's one thing I want to say. The last thing, for time perspective, how much, 30 seconds, how much do I have time for perspective?
Yes,
So I
you
don't.
can take a minute.
Okay, sure. I'll wrap up here. The last thing I want to say here is there are 3 things you can automate your claims for the artificial intelligence. But what I really want to talk about artificial intelligence, you can read this. This is being shared by Institute. You can have it. They'll share you this copy of this slide deck. If not, you can email me. I want to talk about the ethical use in artificial intelligence. You need big data. You need lots of policies to be fed into it. Whatever you feed good, garbage in, garbage out. If you feed good data comes out. That's what I want to talk about here. What else I want to talk about? These are some of the boards, all of the boards over the years that I've worked with, but this is some sample. I've been very privileged, and we're in 72 countries, me and my team. We've advised work in these boardrooms. So I really want to thank you for listening to me. Hopefully I gave you everybody some new ideas. When you come to a conference and learn something new, then I think I've officially succeeded. What else can I say? So I'll give my time to my colleague, and I'm here for questions and answers. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for giving me a time to give some of my boardroom secrets. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. That was amazing. And I will not ask the audience for questions right now because I want them to think over what you have said. Because there are quite a few things which require time to think over. And I would request all of you gathered here to focus your attention on some of the key items which Dr. Yusuf has mentioned. Things like carbon credits, things like coal, whether that is applicable to the African continent in the same fashion as it is internationally. I would like to also think over ESG factors, the governance of the risks that you are underwriting today, and what is changing in that world, and of course, cyber risks, which is one of the most important risks facing us right now. So while we take the next presentation, I would like you to think over this, and if you have any questions, we will take them after the second presentation. Now, it's my honor to introduce to you Leslie Klobu. Leslie is currently the CEO of the African Risk Capacity, ARC, which is a specialist insurance company that specializes in parametric insurance coverage to African countries against extreme weather conditions and natural disasters. So this is one of the most important factors today. What climate change has been doing for us and what ARC has been doing to, safeguard us against the effects of those risks. Leslie has spent close to a decade in various senior management roles in insurance and asset management with the AXA Group in London, Paris, and Singapore, including being the CEO of Lloyd's of London's insurance syndicate. He has been head of corporate development for AXA Global Asset Management and chief investment officer for AXA Singapore. He's a graduate of Christchurch, Oxford University in England, and INSEAD in France. Please give a round of applause for Leslie. Leslie, you're welcome, and we look forward to what you are going to present today on the African continent and how you are safeguarding Africa against extreme weather, and what changes you see happening in Africa today that need to be guarded against. Over to you, Leslie.
Thank you very much, Shivik. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Fantastic. So I really regret the fact that I am not able to join you in person in Naivasha. I've been living in Kenya for a few years now, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit that I've never been to Naivasha, and it looks like I've once again missed an excellent opportunity to be there. Shuvik, I'm not sure if somebody will put my slides up or if I should do that from my end.
We are putting them up. They're on.
All right, great. Thank you very much. So maybe before I even get into the presentation, in the context of what Dr. Yusuf has said, one of the major phenomena that's affecting the African continent is climate change. We are seeing an increasing frequency and severity of natural disasters all across the African continent. In Kenya, you just have to think about the locust invasion, the floods in Western Kenya that we have had, the drought in the north and in the northeast, to realize that this risk that we are talking about, maybe sometimes in an abstract way, starting to materialize. So at the African Risk Capacity, or ARC as we call ourselves, we are a specialist insurer against these extreme weather events and other natural disasters. We provide insurance against droughts, floods, tropical cyclones, and now outbreaks and epidemics. And as most of you will know, there is currently an epidemic that's going on, an Ebola outbreak that is going on in Uganda at the moment. So those are the type of events that we are insuring against. Then maybe to share with you the way that we work at what we call the sovereign level, which is insurance that we provide to the government. So in the case of Kenya, it would be insurance provided to the government of Kenya. When there is a claim paid, the claim is paid to the government of Kenya into the treasury, so that the treasury can then launch relief efforts against whatever peril has been insured. We also provide insurance at what we call the non-sovereign level, which means insurance to the private sector. So as some of you that we already do business with in Kenya will know, we are providing reinsurance for agricultural risks for the Kenya Livestock Insurance Program, CLIP, also for the cereals insurance program. And we have a number of other private insurance schemes with the likes of Acre Africa, One Acre Fund, DigiFarm, etc. Because again, the agricultural sector is in most cases the most exposed to the perils that we insure against. Moving on to the next slide, please. So then again, just to emphasize a few points, we are able to provide climate insurance using models. So the big difference between our approach and maybe the approach of other insurers is that we model all our losses. We pay the claims based on a model. Using a model allows us to be hyper scalable, because as long as we can get the satellite data for any particular geolocalized code, we can calculate the risk and structure an insurance product. We can calculate what the premium should be and pay the claim without ever the client needing to file a claim with us, because we already know, based on the data that we collect, what the conditions are in any particular part of the world. We are able to provide then risk assessment. We're able to propose risk management solutions. And as I've mentioned, we work really at all levels, at the macro level, at the level of the governments. We also work with aggregators and financial institutions to de-risk value chains. And we also provide insurance at the level of the small to medium scale farmers. Moving on to the next slide, please. Just maybe to give you a snapshot of the countries that we have been working in so far. So we have been working all across Africa, as you can see from the map. And those of you that are eagle-eyed will have already spotted the Kenyan map on this slide, just to emphasize that we are already very active in the Kenyan market. Moving on to the next slide. Then maybe just to share with you what we've been able to achieve in the past 8 years that we have been in business. We have facilitated over $1 billion of risk transfer. We have paid over $125 million in claims. Our insurance programs cover 30 million people per year. And out of the claims that we have paid, 6 million people have benefited directly from payment of these claims. Moving on to the next slide. Just maybe to touch on the risks that we cover. So we provide insurance against crop drought. We have a livestock insurance product. We provide coverage against tropical cyclones, against flooding. And then also, I don't have it on the slide, but we have recently launched our coverage for outbreaks and epidemics. On the outbreaks and epidemic side, we provide insurance against the outbreaks, the outbreak of what we call filoviruses. This is Ebola and Marburg, and as well as insurance against the outbreak of meningitis. So again, the problem that we are solving is that when there's an outbreak of these diseases, very often the health authorities in a country don't have the funding to be able to quickly respond. Our insurance product, which pays within a few days, gives this initial liquidity for the mounting of an effective response. And as you can all imagine, the earlier you are able to respond, the earlier you are able to intervene, then the better the outcome is going to be, not just for the citizens in the country, but from citizens all over the world. If you will recall, in 2014, there was an outbreak of Ebola in Guinea. At that point, the government of Guinea needed $5 million to be able to contain the outbreak in the village where it had been first identified. However, they were not able to quickly mobilize this $5 million. And as a result, Ebola spread to 14 countries and caused more than $1 billion of economic damage. So our insurance product is really targeted at early intervention. Moving on to the next slide, please. So then I will share with you very, very quickly about parametric insurance and how it works. So we like parametric insurance because it's transparent, it's objective. We set up an index on the trigger at which point the claim is paid. This is known by both parties to the transaction upfront. We are able to pay claims very quickly, as I've said, because we don't go through the traditional claims adjustment process. We model the impact of the event and pay the claim based on that. This makes parametric insurance also hyper scalable because, as I've said, as long as you have the data, you don't need to visit the geographical location. Moving on to the next slide. So again, I have a very simple schematic of how parametric insurance would work for drought. The principles would be the same regardless of what peril you're covering. So before the policy period starts, and for a drought, the policy period would be linked to the agricultural season. You have to define the index. So the index is simply the basis on which the claim will be settled. And then you have to define the risk transfer parameters. So like, again, any typical insurance product, you are not insuring the full cost of the event. So you have a deductible that you set, or a self-retention layer, however you want to call it. Then there is an attachment point for the insurance. And then also cover exhausts at some point, which you would think about as the policy limit. So it's exactly the same. Once you have agreed the index and the risk transfer parameters, then you set the model, the policy is signed, and the premium is paid. Then moving on to the next slide. And then during the course of the season, so again, if you are running insurance for a drought, you will monitor the progress of the season. So in the case of drought, if you're using a rainfall-based index, the satellites provide rainfall data every 10 days. So every 10 days, you monitor the performance of the season. And in our case, this follow-up is automated. So we receive dashboards that give us the progress of the season by country, by county, by village in Kenya. Then if the accumulation of claims is sufficient to trigger the index, then we pay the claim, and the beneficiaries, start to launch their operations. And then at the end of the season, we'll also systematically review the performance of the model, recalibrate it if necessary, so that we are at all times really using the best available model and taking into account the feedback of the on the ground performance. Moving on to the next slide. Then again, just to share with you some numbers, we are looking to be generating around $100 million of revenues from our insurance programs. We are looking to cover about 200 million people per year and be transferring about $1 billion of risk every single year all across Africa. Moving on to the next slide. And then to achieve this, we work with quite a number of partners who provide to us capital, and in some instances help with subsidizing the insurance programs so that we really scale up coverage and catalyze the market. And moving on to the next slide. What is left for me is to say thank you very much. And I hope you have enjoyed this teaser on parametric insurance and how we are approaching climate change. And I think, Shuvik, we're getting to my favorite part of the presentation, which is the Q&A part. And of course, just to say that I would also be happy to have an offline discussion with you if you would like to have an extended discussion. And my contact information is available from the organizers of the conference. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Leslie. That was a beautiful, short, not entirely sweet presentation, because there are a lot of things which we would be finding difficult to digest, especially in the context of climate change and the risks it brings to all of us. But quickly, Leslie, perhaps you can give us a little more feedback on what do you perceive as the most important climate change that you see today in Kenya and Eastern Africa, where we are located.
Thank you very much for that question. In fact, if you look at Kenya, in the past few years, what has caused the most economic damage is not drought, as most people would expect, but it's actually flooding. So if you layer this then with the latest IPCC report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they have in fact identified that in Africa, there is going to be a lot more flooding over the next 20, 30 years. So this is what I would single out as the most important risk for us here in Kenya.
Thank you, Leslie. And in fact, okay, let's also look at parametric insurance in another format. In fact, way back in 2008, the International Labor Research Institute, which is located in Nairobi, they entered into an agreement with the universities of Syracuse and Cornell to bring parametric insurance to the drought-prone region of Marsabit. And that probably was one of the first steps taken in this part of the continent to showcase what index-based weather insurance can bring to the people. And the key to that was actually the training that involved illiterate farmers in the Marsabit region. And the training was actually so beautifully done. It involved usage of colored golf balls to demonstrate to the farmers how changes in weather would lead to either a payout or no payout. Okay? And since then, I think we have made tremendous progress in bringing weather index-based solutions. But Leslie, my question to you would be, how do you demonstrate to the people on the ground, the farmers and others, what ARC is able to bring to them?
So again, that's an excellent question. So maybe if I take a step back and I answer it more broadly, when you look at, say, the Kenyan market, we can all agree that the insurance penetration is quite low. But in fact, if you split this penetration by sector of the economy, you will soon realize that agriculture has in fact the lowest insurance penetration. So then as the industry, right, if we're addressing the challenge on how we're going to increase penetration, having solutions for the agricultural sector is an important part of that. Then to come to your question maybe more directly is then to say, what causes this low penetration in agriculture? So cumulatively, agriculture is a large contributor to the economy, but it's made up of a lot of small individual farmers. Historically, it's been difficult to reach each of the farmers, but now with technology, it's becoming a lot easier. So in addition to providing just insurance, we always link this up with other services that are beneficial to the farmers, such as extension services, advice on when to plant, when to apply fertilizer. And also there are platforms that have been created where the farmers have access to a number of other services, including credit, including inputs, and also insurance. So it takes really this holistic approach to be able to have a compelling value proposition for farmers. And in Kenya, maybe just to share with everyone, it is actually already happening. We've talked about the number of schemes, right, such as DigiFarm from Safaricom. We've talked about one acre fund. We've talked about Acre Africa. So it is already happening in the market. and it's a growing segment.
Thank you very much, Leslie. I see a question on the Q&A section on from one of our online viewers. And it says, do you offer risk cover for fish farmers, or are there plans to do the same? So do educate us on whether ARC is able to take up aquaculture.
So unfortunately, not at the moment, right? Because we have started really by focusing on the largest segments of the agricultural market. But yeah, the point on fish farming is very well taken, and represents for us the next phase of our growth.
Thank you, Leslie. Any questions from the floor for Leslie? Okay, I'll give you some more time to think about it while we go back to Dr. Yusuf Azizullah. Yusuf, you're still online. Thank you for that. I know it's very early in the morning and I don't know how you're keeping awake, but well done. And Yusuf, just to start off with, some questions, I would like you to give us a little more detail on how you perceive the whole challenge of coal and its usage when it comes to Africa. Now, as you know, it requires a huge investment to shift over from fossil fuels into renewable energy sources, which obviously we need to go there. But can we go there today? Can we go there tomorrow? Would it require 20 years? Would it require 50 years? And okay, let's start there.
Very good question, actually. A very first step strategic question. I actually covered in my course, but I'll give you an example also. Companies have to decide if they want to be sustainable or not. It may include divestitures, spin-offs, changing a segment of your company. It sounds easy, but it's not on principle. Let me explain you. Remember Nokia? Those that remember Nokia cellular company, it's strange to think that Nokia, before being a cellular company, was actually a paper company, printing paper. And they decided to take a different direction. So my advice to you about coal, are we going to get out of coal? It's an individual decision, an individual company level decision, a community level decision, a country level decision, a cultural decision. If you think about it, if we're going to go with this sustainable and cut coal, it's going to take a generation maybe or more. But step back, and if you stick in the ground and say, okay, we're going to be sustainable, maybe you might get out of some locations, geolocations, some African countries, sorry to say, or some Asian countries, same way, very coal heavy, right? Because the poor person cannot afford it. And remember from my first slide presentation, right now, the gap between the rich and the poor is getting more. The poor person is getting poorer. The rich person is getting richer. The one who's using the coal is not the question, is the one who's selling the coal is the question in my mind, if you really want to pinpoint somebody. Because the one who's buying the coal, he has no choice, no alternative fuel to house. There is a lot of things, sustainable things you see in Africa, so many things, being created other than coal, generic good kind of things you see. I'm forgetting the thing that is made out, alternatives in a simple word. But the one who's selling the coal, if they decide to stop their business, and take the example of AIG, the leadership in AIG, they're not going to cover them anymore. If you're getting 30% of your revenue, they're targeting the company who's selling the coal, not the one who's buying the coal. The poor person has no choice. He has to, fire his stove and light and feed his family, cook for his family. The one who's selling the coal is the one you go after from a government perspective, a community perspective, a regulator perspective. if you want to help them change and transition slowly from coal. That's my sense on that. I don't know. I hope I answered it well.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Yusuf. Any questions from the floor? I know we are ahead, just beyond our allocated time, but maybe a quick one.
Yeah.
Any hands?
Yeah.
Yes, Moses.
The question is to Leslie. Morning, Leslie. The question mainly goes to triggers of payment. On climate or agri parametric, it's clear that you have set data and models that can predict the loss and the amount of payment. But in terms of disease outbreak, how do you determine the loss, the amount of loss, and the point of payment of claim?
Leslie, you're on.
All right. Thank you. So then the way we would calculate the claim is to look at what the cost of response would be for an outbreak. And then the trigger is defined based on the number of laboratory confirmed cases. So then we then define in terms of the policy what actually constitutes an outbreak. So for example, if you say an outbreak is triggered by 50 cases, then you already have a fixed amount set out in the contract on what the response would be for 50 cases, what the response would be for 100 cases, and then you're just scaling up the payment as a function of the number of confirmed cases during the defined reporting period.
Anybody else? Yes, I see another hand raised.
Yeah, thank you and good morning, everyone. My name is George Ogutu. My question is to Leslie. Thank you for the insights on some of the covers you provide. But I just had two quick queries to understand the nature of ARC. The first one is, I know you mentioned about outbreaks. I'm not sure if you insure pandemics, and maybe you could clarify whether when you mean outbreaks, you also intend to include pandemics. Number two, it's still not clear to me, especially whether you are a primary insurer or a reinsurer of the risks that you're insuring. So maybe I could clarify that. Thank you.
You're on, Leslie.
Yeah, so then I think the question that you've asked is the technical definition. An outbreak.
Okay.
So an outbreak is generally localized, and the pandemic is global. So at this stage, we're insuring outbreaks. So really, on Ebola, Marburg, and meningitis. We haven't gotten to the stage of pandemics, because then pandemics, as you know, is more of now of a business interruption risk. And then in terms of our structure, yes, we offer both direct insurance, but also reinsurance. We think of it more in terms of risk transfer than specific structures, and our licensing allows us to be flexible to do both direct insurance and also reinsurance. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. We have a question from Mr. Jengam.
My question goes to Yusuf. Kenya, when it comes to the energy mix, has one of the best energy mix in the world, with geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar producing over 75% of the Kenya energy needs, electricity need. How much does Kenya or the companies that produce clean energy in Kenya benefit from the credit, carbon credits market?
Let me repeat the question so I answer it correctly. You're asking how much are companies benefiting from the carbon credit? Is that the question?
That's right. In fact, what The question was, is that Kenya currently produces over 70% of its energy requirements through clean energy like geothermal, solar, and hydropower.
I don't know how much it is. I don't have that statistic, but I can find it and get it to you. But what I can tell you, generally, globally, carbon credit, Google being the example, their zero carbon emissions and 100% is all coming from carbon credits. They wrote a big paper on it. They got into controversy about it from employees. They got a controversy from stakeholders that they are just buying carbon credits and completely become sustainable. Amazon became the same way, but Amazon opened a lot of solars. I remember Jeff Bezos having a nice TikTok kind of social media thing. He was standing on his wind solar panel. It's a humongous panel, and he made a video out of it. They're going, wind. So it's kind of interesting. I want to say this: companies are using carbon credits completely. And my advice, and the discussions I have with board members is right now, do a combination, use carbon credits and digital transformation, because when it comes to ESG, it goes from HR, finance, procurement, all the departments. Each one, ESG factors come from different systems within the enterprise. And if you're doing ESG systems and ESG reporting and doing a materiality assessment on a baseline, I can have a offline candid conversation with you if you want to reach me. But for everybody, that's where it starts. So do a combination is what I recommend, and GBI recommends, is do carbon credits, because right now there is no feasible solution that's 100% for the amount any large multinational corporation is doing other than carbon credits. Plus, starting the evolution with artificial intelligence, understanding the reporting, working with your stakeholders, having a candid discussion, and putting a layout. Remember, I shared there is no statistic right now, just in the insurance industry, just to figure out, once you know where you are, then you can do something about it. We don't even have a metric right now. What are we going to measure it on? And if that gives you any sense, how it's in the infancy stages. But large corporations, the RE100, the members I advise, and the people I work with, and the boards, it's kind of a fun situation when you are given the opportunity. But I hope I answered the question. That's the first thing I'll say. And I'm fine for a follow-up question.
Thank you, Dr. Yusuf. And I think at this stage, we would need to wind up this session, but I would request you all to give a warm round of applause for our speakers.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
To have you gentlemen on our panel. And I'm sure that what you have mentioned here today would be sinking in, and you would all have follow-up questions on that. I'm sure IIK is going to be able to share the presentations with all of you. And we would look forward to having more interactions on these subjects, which are of tremendous importance to all of us in today's world. And that's why I really appreciate IIK for bringing this to the forefront of this conference, so that we are aware of those risks that befall us in today's world. And thank you very much. It has been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and friends. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you so very much for the speakers and the paper chair for the excellent session. You've already taken us through a variety of sounds, from the quick, sweet American accent to the rich South African Ndlovu accent. You have heard it. We are very happy to serve and learn together. So very beautiful, and we're really happy. And of course, our paper chair bringing that taste of language and beauty of it. Welcome, and thank you so much once again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head out for a health break. It will be for only 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes, we'll be back here for our next paper. And this one will be on leadership, that is achieving high performance through leadership and leverages on seamless and effective communication. So we look forward to that session that of course will be presented, will be chaired by Rosemary Karanja, and of course presenters being Caroline Monene and Tom Itogo. And indeed, that is our session that is coming up. For now, we will be heading out for the break. And as we do so, I remember I acknowledge the gold sponsor direct line. I am also aware that we have a gold sponsor IRA, the Insurance Regulatory Authority, and we have our gold sponsor Africa Re. Our gold sponsors in a special way, tunasema asante sana. Our silver sponsors, Continental Re, where the MD comes from, the paper chair for the previous paper, and Steamer Sacco, the silver sponsors. We sincerely appreciate you. And of course, for the bronze sponsors being Kenya Re, Geminia, Madison Group, Policyholders Compensation Fund, Costco Mutual Assurance, Muhasibu Sacco Society, Sanlam, Africa Specialty Risks, Intra-Africa Assurance, Waika Re, Ghana Re, APA, Mayfair Insurance, Empower Insurance, CIC Group, Liberty, MUA, and Chiromo Hospital Group. Our bronze sponsors, thank you so much. And of course, if you had me make a mistake that you're a silver sponsor, it means we promote you next year to silver sponsors so that we can have more bronze sponsors there, right? Thank you for that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time that we headed for a break. But before we do so, as I said, we are Africans, and Africans always give gifts whenever we have the opportunity to. To the online team, we have M-Pesa. But for those present here, I wish to welcome Mary Nkoimu from IRA to present a gift to the paper chair, the previous paper chair. I am still trying to get the pronunciation of that name right, but I believe by the end of the tea break, I will have got the pronunciation. Mary, please come over and present this gift on behalf. We're going to present this gift to you, Wana Subik Parlidia. I hope I get that name. Finally, I will. The gift is right here. You'll present it to him. The camera team, you prefer it where they should come up. I saw someone take photos here. This is from us to you in a special way, saying Asante Sana for the excellent leadership on that paper. Thank you so very much. And thank you once again. Let's give him one more round of applause. And we appreciate it. Asante Sana. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for our break. And as we head out, may God bless our tea in Jesus' name. Amen. Enjoy.